What's going on, guys? Zuco back with another Dragonflight video. Hope you're all doing very, very well. I want to talk about some interesting changes that we could potentially make to the classes and specs in this game to make them a little bit better. I think that, for me, this is a bit of a response to the recent surge in this God comp that we've seen in Mythic Plus. So if you guys haven't seen, like, Raider.io or anything lately, all the keys are being pushed right now by 5 different classes that are superior to the rest. So in this video, I want to talk about not just how, like, Blizzard's response recently has been to nerf this God comp and to say, hey, the only way that we can see other specs getting into the meta is if we nerf the damage from these specs or the healing or whatever. And the reality is that that's not the main reason why these things are brought. They're definitely doing the most damage, and they have really, really good healing. Things like Shadow Priest bringing Vampiric Embrace just got nerfed. Guardian Druid's Thrash and Raze just got nerfed by 8%. Is that going to bring these guys out of the meta? Probably not, because the real reason that they're in the meta is because they do lots of damage, they do lots of healing, and then they also have insane utility that they're bringing, right? Mark of the Wild, the Roar on Interrupt, AoE Interrupt from the Bear. Really, really good durability from the Bear, but a Battle Res as well. Holy Paladin also has a battle res, and just an insane toolkit in general. Blessing of Protection, Blessing of Sacrifice. They can Divine Shield themselves. You know, we already talked about Shadow Priest. Mass Dispel. Mind Soothe is a big one that gets used. Vampiric Embrace. Lots of off healing. So there's just like the Ogvoker, of course, bringing all the extra shields for the tanks. This is why these are brought. So the question I think that we should be asking is not like, how do we nerf the damage of these so that they're less desirable to bring, which is what Blizzard just did, especially like Shadow Priest. They basically nerfed to the ground. You're still probably going to bring Shadow Priest because they need Mind Soothe, or they need Mass Dispel, they need PI. But like, the question we should be saying is, how do we buff the rest of the specs in the game to make them up to a similar level, or at least to an area where they can maybe start to compete in terms of their viability with some of these other specs. One of the worst examples of this is Hunter. Hunter has lots of damage. It actually has lots of decent utility in terms of, like, slowing enemies down with Tar Trap. It can dispel magic infects and enrages, which is really good. You have a stun or a knockback. You have some decent utility there, but that's kind of like baseline regular utility. You don't have Vampiric Embrace. You don't have Mass Dispel. You don't have PI. You don't have Mark of the Wild or Arcane Intellect. You don't give a buff to the rest of your parties. Like, there's so many, like, enormous things that are missing from Hunter. You don't have a battle res, right? So, of course, Hunter's not going to be brought. Is the damage good on Hunter? Yeah, it's good on Hunter. But the rest of it is what's missing. So, I want to do a little video here and just talk about what could we potentially add to different specs to make them more viable. What we want to buff specs that are like not in the meta at all right now by giving them not just damage buffs or healing buffs, but interesting utility buffs. Let's make them stronger on that front so that they're more viable. And so I have a bunch of couple things for Hunter. We're just going to do Hunter today. I have a couple of interesting ideas that I just want to share with you. Some little mock-ups that I made on the talent tree. So right now, let me put this right here so you can kind of see it. We'll make it skinny and we'll make it long, something like this. So you can see the current class tree over here on the left, okay? This is kind of invading. Let's just move this over a bit. There we go. Oops. Now we got to bring this again. Okay, so here's the current class tree on the left. And then we've got a new one that I've kind of mocked up here, okay? And what I want to do is just do a little comparison. Talents that are currently, like, completely giga useless for Hunter right now, things like improved traps. Things like Binding Shackles. These might be okay even in PvP. I'm not thinking about PvP at all. I'm strictly thinking about PvE and how we can make this better in PvE. Because I honestly, like, PvP is like a whole different thing. And if these are really overpowered in PvP, then it's just something that they could just tune, right? They've done this before. You just make adjustments to some of these talents that I'm suggesting, and boom, you're okay. But these are really useless. Improved Traps to me is really useless. Even Entrapment is pretty dumb. It could be good on, like, some weeks, like, potentially Spiteful right now. That might actually be okay. But it's only once the Tar Trap is activated. So your Spitefuls have to be out. So it's just kind of useless. And Binding Shackles is really bad. I think Improved Trank Shot is really bad. A Sentinel Owl is really bad. Just in general, Sentinel Owl, like, There are some uses for this, and I've seen some hunters using this, but like 2 points to give your entire team 5% leech just seems really dumb to me. So there's a lot of problems in the middle section of this tree. Here's how I think I would fix it. Here's how I think I would kind of fix it. Let's look over here. Number one, we need to bring back a battle res for Hunter. And this is exactly how I would kind of replace. You can see the 4 different talents that I've replaced here. This one down here is a new talent. This middle one is gone. It's now called Intercession. I'll get to that in a second. And then I've added 2 more over here to get rid of Sentinel Owl, okay? So number one is Intercession. Now, this might already be an ability name in the game, but it's just something off the top of my head. So you're going to call a pet from your stable to resurrect a fallen ally, restoring 60% of their health, 20% of their mana. For 5 seconds afterwards, your pet will guard that ally, reducing their damage taken by 15%. I think this is a really cool idea, and it should be central into the tree. It should not be baseline for Hunter to have a battle res, which is what all other battle reses are. They're baseline. Death Knight, Druid, Evoker, Paladin, they're all baseline abilities. You don't have to talent into it. I think it's fine for Hunter to have to talent into it. I'm okay with that. And it's a set, but it's a central talent. It's easy to pick up if you want it, and it gives you this nice little bonus of guarding the ally afterwards once they get up from being dead. We've all seen those clips of probably me getting battle resed and dying right away again, right? We don't want that to happen. So I think that's first and foremost, they should get a battle res option. And again, it's important, the wording here, you need to call a pet from your stable so that Marksman Hunter, who typically doesn't run a pet, can also benefit from this, okay? Number 2 down here, we're going to replace Binding Shackles with Hunting Pack. Hunting Pack is a PvP talent right now, but I think it should absolutely just go into the PvE talent tree. Aspect of the Cheetah is 50% reduced cooldown and grants its effects to allies within 20 yards. I think the current PvP one says 15 yards. I like to make it a little bit bigger, 20 yards. This gives extra little utility from the Hunter to boost your party. So let's say you're even in a raid. You're on a raid fight and you want an additional roar like Guardian, like Druids have. Not Guardian, but all Druids have roar. That would be really cool. This is like Wind Rush Totem. It's the same idea, right? In your raid, you could have Aspect of the Cheetah go off for your entire raid group. I think that would be really cool. And I think that would be an awesome little bonus reason to bring hunters into raid. It's not going to guarantee that you bring a hunter into a raid, but you're probably already bringing a hunter anyway. So having these 2 tools, an extra battle res and an extra Wind Rush Totem essentially, would be really cool, I think. Another incentive to bring. We want to increase the incentives to bring hunters to any content at all, right? Okay. Now we're replacing Sentinel Owl and its choice node underneath over here. Mending Bandage. This is another PvP talent. I think it should absolutely go into the PvE talent tree to give hunters an additional bonus defensive here, because again, we're really lacking defensive. Survival of the Fittest, and we have Exhilaration, and then we have a buff to Survival of the Fittest. That's it. That's all you get as a hunter. Like, I don't know why you don't have more. This is another reason hunters aren't brought in content, is because they don't have good defensives. Yes, you have Turtle and stuff, and that can help, but like at the end of the day, in a big like Mythic plus 20, plus 22, and the higher keys, you're not going to see any hunters because they can't survive. They just can't survive. So I think this would be another cool addition. It's not a damage reduction, which I know is what people would be kind of hoping for, but I don't think you necessarily have to have that. This is an extra bit of utility here. Really, really good healing. Mending Bandage instantly clears all bleed and poison effects. The PvP talent also includes diseases, but I'm not going to include that because that's a bit too much, I think. And heals you for 30% of your max HP over 6 seconds. It is a channeled ability. Okay, so that's the bandage right here. Okay. Now, we have another option to go from the bandage talent right here, or to go from camouflage down to the new talent I've added. This is a choice node, just like it was on the old tree, but it doesn't have to do with Sentinel Owl anymore. Here's the choices. You can grab Persistence, which will change how camouflage works. Camouflage's heal persists for 15 seconds after you break stealth, and camouflage's cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds. So camouflage, if you don't know, makes you go into stealth for 1 minute, and then while you're camouflaged, you'll heal for 2% of your maximum health every second. I'm saying if you take this choice node down here, Persistence, it makes it so that for 15 seconds after you break stealth, so you start combat, for 15 seconds, you're going to get 2% of your maximum health every second. It's a really incredible bonus. So you basically you're kind of invincible for the first like 15 seconds of that fight. That's kind of what I'm going for there. Maybe that's a little bit overkill, but I think it's an interesting idea. And again, you have to invest 2 talent points to get both camouflage and this buff. So I think it's worth it. Like, the buff needs to be good enough to warrant that, right? The other choice now would be Survivalist. Mending Bandage now has 2 charges, and its heal is now instant, so you don't have to channel anymore. Mending Bandage is a channeled ability, and it wouldn't be channeled anymore if you took the bonus to it, and you get an additional charge. So you're basically immune to poisons and bleeds all the time, because you'll always have one of these bandages ready to go. I think this would be a huge quality of life for Survival Hunter. It really fits the or just Hunter in general. I think it fits like the natural kind of Hunter aesthetic, and there aren't very many classes or specs in the game that can get rid of bleeds in particular, so I think that would be a really good niche for Hunter to kind of slot into. So those are my talents right there. 1, 2, 3, 4 that I would just add. Not very many, but I think we should replace these useless talents like Improved Traps, Binding Shackles, Sentinel Owl, and its upgrades, and we should put in some interesting choices here defensively over here on this right side, and then also utility-wise, giving the group an AoE speed boost and getting a battle res for your team. I think that would be really important. Now, on top of that, I've brought in a couple of new passives that I think are really important for Hunter. So let's look at those right now. So here I've just added some passives, that I think are going to be a good idea for Hunters to have. And I think that for some reason this is being really weird. Sorry guys, here we go. Hunter right now, again, there's not very many good reasons to bring a Hunter to a Mythic Plus key. And you will bring a Hunter to a raid simply because they have things like Turtle, and they're really reliable ranged damage, like ranged just straight up damage, but they don't have any utility. So I want to try and add some of that here, and I think that on top of the talents that I have just shown you guys, I think it would be really cool to have some interesting utility as well from the Hunters for your entire party. So it depends what spec you're going. If you go Beastmaster Hunter, you're going to get Master's Gift. All pet damage increased by 5% for all party and raid members. All pet passive bonuses increased by 10% for party and raid members as well. So think about the combo here with something like an Unholy DK or a demo Warlock, right? Or even another Beastmaster Hunter. You're going to be increasing all of their pet damage. And again, any of the pet classes in the game are going to benefit from having a BM Hunter in the group. I think that's a really interesting idea. Obviously, this could get really insane if you just stacked a bunch of pet classes. Like, maybe you put a limit on it. It's limited to 5 allies or something. 5 allies total, including yourself. So, like, 4 plus you. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, there's ways to make this work. And I think bringing a BM Hunter into a key or into a raid now has additional utility that you can say, okay, hey, we've got the BM Hunter there. He's going to be buffing all of our other pet classes. What pet classes should we bring in Unholy DK? Make sure that we bring a couple of demo locks maybe. And then maybe bring another BM Hunter. Make sure that we actually get the full benefit of having this BM Hunter here. I think that would be a really cool idea. A really sort of a niche for them. Marksman Hunter, Sniper's Gift. All party raid members gain 5 range. Plus 5 yards. Sorry, I should have put yards in there. It's plus 5 yards of range. I think this would be a massive deal for so many reasons. Number one, all your melee bros would absolutely love having a Marksman Hunter there with you. In the back, shooting people, and then also you can stand like outside of mechanics now. An Enhancement Shaman, Feral Druid actually has decent range, but like Enhancement Shaman is probably one of the worst ones in the game right now for needing to be right underneath an enemy in order to do your damage. Even Warrior has to be pretty close, so all the melee classes would really love having the extra 5 yards of range to avoid some of the dangerous mechanics. And then for other people like your healers in a raid scenario, giving all of your healers plus 5 yards might help them be able to reach an enemy that's really, or an ally, sorry, that's really far away and heal them. For evokers, preservation evokers, they go from 25 yards to 30 yards on all of their abilities. That might be a massive deal for a preservation evoker as well. So I think this is a cool idea, and I think if you bring a Marksman Hunter, you're going to get this extra utility in your group. Survival Hunter, Nature's Gift, all party raid members gain 10% cooldown reduction. I kind of tried to figure out what a good one would be for Survival Hunter. I'm not sure I really love this one. Let me know, of course, guys, in the comments if you think there's a better one that you could pick for Survival Hunter or for any of the Hunter specs. But I think it's an interesting idea to give your entire party 10% cooldown reduction. Maybe make it 15%. It might get really overpowered if you're not careful. But it's an interesting idea, right? Think about the really long cooldown abilities in the game. Things like a Demon Hunter meta. If Demon Hunters are running like 4-minute meta, it goes from 4 minutes to 3 minutes and 32 seconds. So you're basically shaving 30 seconds off of the meta cooldown. That's kind of a big deal. That's a really big deal, I think, for Demon Hunters to be able to stay in meta as much as possible. Unholy DK, Army of the Damn, right? Army of the Dead, whatever. It goes from 8 minutes. It's an 8-minute cooldown. It goes down to 7 minutes and 12 seconds. So you're almost shaving an entire minute off of Army. Holy Priest, if they're taking Salve in a raid scenario, a Holy Word Salvation, it goes from 12 minutes to 10 minutes and 50 seconds. So you're shaving a minute and 10 seconds off of that cooldown. So the bigger the longer the cooldown, the more utility you're essentially bringing as that survival hunter. So that's something that they could potentially play around with. But I think, guys, this is the direction that Blizzard needs to go with all the different specs in the game. I think that, first of all, they made, Augmentation Evoker, and that was probably just a big mistake, but they can't go back on it now. I don't think they can get rid of it now. It's here. It's here to stay. So I think that what they need to do, instead of nerfing the God comp by bringing down, Guardian Druid damage or bringing down Fire Mage damage, which they just did, nerfing Shadow Priest damage like crazy, instead of doing that, they need to just buff the other specs in the game that are not brought to any high-end Mythic Plus keys, or maybe aren't brought to Mythic Raid, because they don't offer anything. Give them something to offer the rest of the group. Give them an extra battle res. Give them an extra AoE movement ability. Give them more survivability so that they can live. Give them some passive utility that they can bring that really makes the group think about the group composition. Maybe you want that BM Hunter and you want a bunch of other pet classes. Maybe your melee, you can bring an extra melee person in your raid because your Marksman Hunter is giving them that extra raid. This would be really, really cool, and it makes you think about your group composition. It makes you think about possibly bringing a Hunter, which is one of the most underutilized classes in the entire game right now. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Those are some of my ideas for Hunter. I'm going to continue to do more videos on this. I think it's a lot of fun coming up with this stuff. So, I'm going to do more videos on different classes, different specs that are underutilized, and I'm going to bring them to you guys, and we're going to have a big discussion. So let me know in the comments down below, please, what you think about this. What ideas do you have to make Hunter a more desirable spec in the game right now? Let me know what you think, guys. I love you all. Thank you so much again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.